everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I feel like it's been a minute since I filmed, even though it's only been a few days. I feel like I'm just out of the rhythm, but it feels so good to be back with you guys here today. And today I wanted to talk about how to deal with change and how to also cope with change. And the first thing I wanted to say is that change is something that is ever present. You know, we live in a world that is always in flux. Nothing, no matter what you're pointing to, is ever static. Even the things that we think and perceive to be static are all still changing, but they might just be changing at a different pace than we can perceive, or at a different rate that doesn't appear that it's changing super fast over the amount of time that we're measuring it. But in fact, everything in the entire world is always changing. And I think when we're scared of change, as that will always be in our life, you know, we're always nervous of what's over the next horizon, making big changes in our life, whether that's moving, getting a new job, a new relationship. And life is always full of changes, you know, and I really think for us to overcome our fear of change, and it's okay to have a healthy fear of things, but I think for us to succeed and move into those changes feeling confident, we have to embrace them and know that they are a natural part of life. You know, sometimes, because I personally struggle with change a lot, I like really getting into my routine and sticking to my routine, but I always have to remind myself that even the routine that I now have was once something new. And to get into a routine and to get into a stable part of life, change needed to happen for that to occur. So sometimes change is the precursor to even growing more and being more comfortable in yourself. And I think when we're on the onset of change, we have to remember that this change is necessary, it's good. We need to embrace that we are changing beings. You know, every day I have something a little bit different about me, even though if mentally I don't perceive it. We are always changing, we are always growing, we are always adapting. And adapting is another word that I really wanted to focus today on this video. We are made to adapt, you know, from our ancestors in the wild and growing through all of their struggles to nowadays, we are made to adapt. You know, if we just like with this quarantine and work from home, like we've all adapted to that, we're all going to adapt to something new, and with changes in our lives, we figure out how to go about them and, you know, embrace them and put them into our lives to make our days easier. So I think we just have to remember that change is always a part of our life. We're always making small adaptations, whether you realize it or not. Whether, you know, there's traffic on the highway, so we need to take a different way, or whether, you know, something large happens in our life and we have to make a move to a different state, or do something that we totally would not think about that we would actually do. And I think when we reflect on these changes, we have to really know that they are the best for us. And when we embrace change, we ultimately grow our perception of ourselves, our perception of the world. And I have to always remind myself that embracing this change is part of the journey of life. And we wouldn't really have a journey throughout life if nothing changed. If we just woke up, did exactly what we wanted to do, did exactly and we expected everything that would happen at every moment of the day, wouldn't that be kind of a boring lifestyle? And wouldn't we kind of crave some difference and some switch ups? And even though we might not predict, you know, some switch ups and stuff and might not be at the most optimal time we think, there's definitely a reason that is happening in your life, and you just have to realize that and, like I said, embrace it. It might be super hard to embrace it. Most times it will be, but I think you have to remember what's over that hill. You know, once you embrace that, you can make that your new normal. You can strive through the struggles and really come out the other end as a grown person, and also saying, look at that change that really happened in my life and I overcame it. And once that change occurred and you adjusted to, you know, whatever your new normal is, or, you know, working through whatever's happening, you might look back and see, hey, I really faced this with open arms. I faced it with a courageous heart, and I was able to make something new and create kind of a new perception of the world and really create a new reality for myself from this change. I think that's something as humans we have to always remember. We have the ability to adapt and create. You know, the world is really our oyster, as cliche as that sounds. But as things externally face our lives, we can really take them by the helm and, you know, control the change. Might not be able to control the whole thing, but control the parts that we can to ensure that we are growing and taking this as great as possible and just in stride. I also wrote down a few things because otherwise I feel like I just ramble and it'd be like 10 minutes later. But another point that I wanted to point out is that it's kind of funny that we still have this fear of change. Obviously, as conscious beings, we're like, duh, it's change, it's super hard. But almost if you look at it in this way, we should be used to change by now. We've witnessed change over our whole lives. You know, my last 20-something years, every moment has changed and grown into this moment now. And that is true for all of us. You know, we've all had changes, we've all gone through many things. Some things are larger than others, but one thing that I really want to take out of this video is that you should know change is always occurring. It's not like your life is static, perfect, oh, this happened, and you know, it totally ruined it. There are times like that where it feels like that, but I really think if we look at the grander scheme, there's always going to be ebbs and flows. It's always changing. The dial's always moving a little bit, even though if we don't perceive it to be. And something also that I wanted to point out is I struggle, like I said, with change. You know, I can get really set in my ways after like 6 weeks doing something. This is what I like, you know, and then even if after those 6 weeks something changes and I can go back to, you know, my more normal setting, I have this like attachment to the changed setting that I already created. And sometimes that's hard kind of to flip-flop, and because I really just like routine, I like knowing what's going to happen, I like being comfortable in my surroundings. But something I have to remind myself is that you'll always be more comfortable with the new change once you adapt to it. And use this as a good thing. Know that you'll be inspired and you'll just your consciousness, your body, your mindset will adapt to whatever new is coming at you. And at one point, if it is a good change and you like it, at one point you'll see that new setting as almost more comforting than your old setting. Especially I take that a lot with moving. You know, I like having my own space. I like knowing where my things are, having everything set out. So for me, moving is always super stressful because everything, like I said, everything's in flux. And especially the day-to-day things are in flux for me. Like, you know, all my face stuff, all my, you know, just things that I use every day. It's all unorganized. So moving is always a good testament to kind of psyching myself up to really deal with change and look at it from an introspective perception like we always want to do here. But I wanted to just put out this video if you are struggling with change, how to cope with it, just kind of embracing this mindset that we are always changing. The world is changing. There's nothing new about change. And we just have to kind of embrace that universe flow because the cosmos is changing. You know, we created and this earth was created because things changed, and the earth is still changing. We are still changing. Just the world is changing. So I think it is actually, we have to like honor that change and embrace it and really be a part of it and take from it what we can. And a last thing I wanted to bring up is sometimes the perception of steadiness is actually brought on by a change. So like I said, moving is really stressful and it's a change. But what happens, you know, a month after you move? In your mind, you actually feel steady because you've settled into a semi-quasi routine. And we just have to remind ourselves that this change that is occurring, maybe if it's very confined at like a moment, this is happening. That change will inevitably create perceived steadiness for you, and steadiness that will allow you to go out and pursue other changes. Kind of, I always think of it like as a home base. Change might create another home base for you to go seek out different changes and different avenues that will also challenge you in your journey of life. I hope you all really enjoyed this video and just getting out my ideas about change, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you guys for watching. Bye!